parents have an exciting thing coming up this year. They're retiring. And one of the most exciting points of that, I think, for them is the idea of becoming snowbirds, people that stay up here during the summer. And during the colder months, they go to a warmer climate. Well, in preparation for that, my dad bought a place down in the Florida Keys, a little cement house in this town called Marathon, a little fishing town. It seemed like a really good idea. And then the hurricane. I'm sure you all remember back in September when that hurricane came and totally cleared through Florida. Interestingly enough, on the way to mainland Florida, it went right through the middle of the Keys. Also interestingly enough, Marathon is right in the middle of the Keys. So you can imagine the state of panic that my dad was in. And in states of panic like that, we make irrational decisions. Dad came up with a slightly irrational plan. He decided that he was going to load up his truck with construction material, drive from Vermont down to the Florida Keys, and fix it himself because that was going to save money. Of course, this is crazy to do it on your own, so he asked me to help. Of course, he's my dad, and I said yes, but I wanted to point out all the really bad ideas that were embedded in this plan. And fellow Toastmasters and guests, I'd like to share with you 6 of the worst problems with this plan. Problem number 1, I am not a carpenter. No way. What's worse, Dad wanted sheetrock put up. I have worked with sheetrock before, but it's not pretty. I shared this with him, implying that it may not be a very good idea. He told me, don't worry, we'll bring your brother Sam. He has experience in construction. This leads to problem number 2. Earlier that year, July 4th, my brother was working on the roof of his father-in-law, where he fell off of a ladder onto his back. Amidst all of the injuries that he received from this, he fractured a vertebrae. Yes, my brother broke his back. The fracture itself wasn't so deep that he was paralyzed from the waist down, but he had to have a back brace to make sure that he didn't injure it further. Great news, it was being taken off at the beginning of October. Bad news, we were going to Florida at the end of September. This goes to problem number 3. My dad wanted to drive from Vermont with me, my brother, his back brace, and all this construction material from Vermont down to the Florida Keys, straight through. I told him this was a terrible idea because I am not a night driver. My bedtime is 10. After that, I go to bed whether I want to or not. Put me in a driver's seat, it's not a good idea. In my defense, I did try. I lasted an hour. And there was no night driving for me. Luckily, we realized that there was a curfew, so we couldn't arrive at the time we thought we were going to, so we spent a few hours of sleep at my sister's in North Carolina. But this brings me to the next problem. Why was there a curfew? Because looters. They didn't want anybody going in at night and stealing all the stuff that was strewn across the islands. Have you ever gone to a place where there was a problem with looters? I haven't. That's scary. I don't want to deal with that. So that brings us to problem number 5, which hit me like a bag of bricks when we arrived. It was the amount of destruction there. It was apocalyptic, and I'm not using that term lightly. Everything was destroyed. Happily, Dad's house was built out of concrete, so it stood against the 2 feet of seawater that had filled the house. Unfortunately, that meant that it was covered in sea mud and water and smelly, gross stuff. And being around 90 degrees in there, it was the perfect farm for mold. So that was fun and exciting. This brings us to problem number 6. without any electricity, there was no AC. Did I mention that part about humid and 90? I really am not joking around. It was that warm. So that was the temperature which we were working on these walls, these wires in this house, and it was a little intense. So that was why, or some of the reasons why, it was a bad idea for this trip to go down to Florida. There's a longer story involved here, but as you may notice, I have a green light, and I definitely do not have time to get into the rest of it, so I'm going to have to save it for another speech. Instead, I will leave you with the 6 reasons why it was a bad idea. I'm no carpenter. My brother had a broken back. Night driving. Looters. Destruction. No AC. Thank you for listening.